Stu Wilson, who was I would regard as a legendary All Black,
Yeah.
and he worked near me in Wellington, and he said to me, "Come on, we're going to go the extra mile here. Come to my office Monday 12:30.
Mm-hmm.
Change to go." And there was Stu, and he had two mates with him. What the bugger didn't tell me is his two mates were members of an athletic club, running club,
Right.
not rugby players.
Right.
Those watching this podcast know Wellington, and those that don't, I'll tell you, it is one of the hilliest places in the world.
It's a very warm welcome to United Rugby Fans podcast show today to Mr. Jamie Salmon. Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation, Mark. Pleasure to be on.
Great to have you here, and I'm sure you're a podcast expert. I'm sure you've been talking on podcasts all around the world, so you know how this stuff's done. We're a unique organisation. We've just started, as you know, we're grassroots, and we're spreading the message of rugby fans across the world. I had a couple of people write to me and say, hey, listen, when are you going to get some old All Blacks on the show and have a chat to some of them? So you're the first one, mate. We're getting All Black number 818 today. And ironically, you also played for England. But before we get on to that part of the journey, we want to start off with your beginnings in the game of our great game of rugby. Where did it all start for you? How old were you? And how did you get connected to the sport?
I was 8 at prep school, and rugby was the Christmas term sport. I'm going back to the 70s here. I quickly realised that I was going to be a back, not a forward. And played in multiple positions across the back line as you do at that age. And just enjoyed all aspects of it, really. You know, carrying a ball, passing a ball, the contact side of it, making a tackle. Yeah, and I enjoyed the competitive nature of it. I enjoyed the team ethos side of the game. And at 8, 9, 10, you get into a situation whereby how much do I want to play the sport, the camaraderie side of it. And it was the first sport that I appreciated about being in a team. And that team is the operative word here. And team becomes the singular word going right the way through, you know, and that old phrase, you know, there's no I in team, is never more appropriate than it is in rugby football. And much as there are very individual moments from brilliant players and what have you, at some stage somebody else has got to give them the ball, or create for them, or whatever the case may be. Obviously, television there in terms of watching heroes, because I'm a great believer in kids follow heroes as much as sports. Coverage then was pretty limited in terms of live, which we're all so used to now. If it's not live, let's not bother. But the Five Nations, as it was obviously a focal point. The club and the Lions was obviously huge. I mean, the 74 Lions that went to South Africa under Willie John, which were amazingly successful. The Lions coming around every 4 years. Everybody, you know, TV broadcasters didn't dominate kickoff times then, Mark. And in New Zealand and South Africa, it was 3 o'clock kickoffs. There was nothing under lights and all that sort of stuff. So, old man got up in the morning, and at breakfast you were told that they'd won or lost or whatever. So, it was from quite an early age that I mean, to be brutally honest, I preferred cricket. I just didn't find the middle of the bat as much as I should have. It was very apparent that rugby was gonna be my game. To what level, one had no idea at that stage, obviously. But that I went to a very good rugby school, pretty good at it, and it went from there really. And I was always, as I went through my teens, if there was one sport I was going to join a club for after I left school, it was going to be rugby.
Rugby, right. So I'm interested to know, when you were that young and just starting off in the game, was there a distant dream and vision? I want to be an All Black. I want to be an international test star at all?
No, not whatsoever. I was born and brought up in Hong Kong.
Right.
So I was kid that commuted, as it were, like lots of other expat kids at the time.
Mm-hmm.
New Zealand was never going to happen. I was an English brought up guy, and all the rest of it. New Zealand wasn't on my radar at all, apart from watching All Black teams play.
Yep.
So it was a very different dynamic. The big impression the All Blacks made in those days was not through the channels we're all used to today and the platforms we're used to today, was the fact that they came over here into the UK and played 24 and 28 match series.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the All Black side of 72, 73 that came
Mm-hmm.
to the UK, the last game here was the famous Barbarians game, and Gareth Edwards scoring that try in the corner.
Yep.
You ask most, I'll give you one guess, two guesses, three guesses, what month of the year that game was played in. Nobody would ever say it was January.
No, that's true.
And at the end of people don't realise, because it wasn't documented as much then, when they left that game, they then went to France for 3 games. Well,
Yep.
they got here and I mean, it was, and I remember on one of the tours, they played the combined services at Twickenham on Boxing Day.
Yep.
So how the All Black mana, if you like, spread, and they played up and down the country, and they played 3 games in Scotland before a Test match, and the same in Ireland. The great Munster win of '78. The All Black team still played Ulster and Connaught, and then an Irish Test. So they went round the block, and that's why the All Black name, I think, grew apace at that time.
Those tours were brilliant, weren't they? Because it really gave the players and the fans an opportunity to be part of the culture of rugby. I think when you have those tours where the touring team is in a country for a significant period of time, they really get to bond with everybody, including the media, right? The media pick up on it as well, and you get all these additional stories and peripheral things that come from it. And I think once those longer tours like that started to go away for all the reasons we know, it became a sadder part of the game for me, because it was part of, I was just as excited as a Kiwi kid getting up to watch the All Blacks play the combined services in Ulster and Munster in those games, because I didn't know much about those teams at the time, and I wanted to see how good they were against our so-called world-beating All Blacks, right?
Well, and the other thing is, if you couldn't go to the game on the Saturday, every training session was open. There weren't closed training in those days. Kids and other people and junior rugby coaches and genuine supporters could go lean on a rail at some rugby club and watch the All Blacks train. And the same with other tourists, to be fair. So the access was what I call eyeball access.
Yep.
Not screen access on a social media platform and what have you. And as a kid, to go and see those things and see them live, and these great players live, you go back to your house with a different mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a teenager, you're in there, you're playing it, you're loving the team sport. Where did it go next for you?
Well, I left school at 18 and joined Blackheath Rugby Club in South London.
Okay.
And I was 18, and they said to me, "Your time will come, but just give it some time." And I was playing twos, and this is 77, and then November 77, I went for a Kent County under-19 trial, and at that stage I was a 10 or a 15, certainly not a centre, and I thought I did really well, got a couple of tries and all the rest of it. Anyway, I didn't pass muster, didn't get to the stage of that setup. So I went back training on the Monday, Tuesday, and there was 2 Kiwis who were playing for Blackheath at the time, who were doing what a load of Australasians did at that period of time. Was they came over in the winter, played some sport, got a job, saved some money, and then toured Europe in the summer. That was their experience. And I don't wish that to sound too simplistic, but it was for young Kiwis and Aussies, and South Africans, it was a thing. And they swamped Earl's Court in West London and shared flats and all that. So I had a great time, which was good. Anyway, so these 2 lads were from the Athletic Club in Wellington, New Zealand. And excuse my French, they said, "Well, bollocks to Kent, come and play a season for us in New Zealand." our club side, we'd love to have you, you know, da, da, da. So anyway, I thought about it, and I had a job in London, et cetera, et cetera. And then I thought, bugger it. I mean, why not go 12,000 miles and give it a go?
Absolutely.
Just give it a go. So I went back and told my parents. My mother wasn't that supportive. My father was very supportive. He said, give it a go. You can give me a call if something goes wrong. You just give me a call and we'll get it sorted. So the following January '78, one of the guys backed out and stayed in the UK. One of the guys came back with me, and I arrived knowing this one guy in New Zealand late January '78. Excuse me. And such is the beauty. I arrived on a Sunday.
New Zealand was closed.
like completely closed. I mean, there wasn't a petrol station, a pub, a movie house. I mean, it was closed, bar the churches, I presume.
Yeah.
So I thought this is.
And they closed at 12 as well, by the way.
Right, yeah. But then on the Tuesday, I went training, and suddenly you're amongst 40 guys.
Yep.
You're amongst.
Where was this at?
This was the Athletic Club in Wellington.
In Wellington, right? Okay.
Athletics subsequently merged with a club 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line. They subsequently merged with a club called Onslow and became Western Suburbs. When I first went there, it was the Athletic Club, and there was the club captain was a guy called Brian Cedarwall, who was the Wellington rep player. So that's how it started. And then, the great beauty about this game, and a lot of sports, to be fair, but within 2-3 training sessions, somebody said to me, "Do you fancy a beer after training?" And you know how that mushrooms.
Yep.
And the great beauty, I mean, my kids, when a couple of them went on a gap year, and I said, join a rugby club, because the worst thing that can happen, if you join a rugby club, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to find guys to have a beer with.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing. The best thing will be 30 guys, 40 guys, guys becoming close mates, business opportunities, which is a secondary benefit. But rugby clubs are just of that nature. Communities are of that nature. They make you feel welcome. My son now, who plays locally, his best mates are in the second 30. It doesn't matter what team you are. There's no hierarchy, if you like. So and Kiwis were very warm and very welcoming. Was I unique in terms of an English guy going and playing the season in New Zealand? Probably not, but it wasn't a regular thing for people to do. And I was an 18-year-old kid. I mean, and I was 12,000 miles away. You didn't make the phone call. You could send a telegram. I think I sent a telegram saying arrive safely.
Send money.
Or say, well, that came later.
How was the standard of play, though, when you first went over to New Zealand compared to what you'd been experiencing at that age in the UK? Was there a gap at all in terms of the standard of play?
It was, because I was playing Blackheath 2s and 3s. And Wellington, I was straight in the first team, fortunately, at centre, not at 10 or 15. And two very easy things to spot was that it was quicker and it was more physical.
Right. Yep.
It was very interesting. One of the coaches said to me after about 3 or 4 weeks, he said to me, "I reckon you can play a bit. I reckon I think you've got a pretty good skill set here. But my job is to make you a better player by coaching you, not by getting you fit. You get out and start running at lunchtime."
Yep.
And a salutary lesson that if you want to achieve something and stay in the first team at whatever level it is, and you're going twice a week to footy practice, you're there to be coached, and you've got to be there in decent shape. If you've got any to play at the top level, club level, provincial level, international level, whatever the case may be, at some stage you've got to go the extra mile, without question.
So from that relationship that started then, did you start to get feelings that, okay, I'm going to put in the work here and see how far I can get with this? Was that something that came to mind?
Well, it came very quickly, Mark, because after about games, the Queen's birthday weekend in New Zealand, mid-June, I think, mid-June, there was an early provincial round of games, and I got in the Wellington squad.
Okay.
After about 8, I was in the squad, and they were playing counties at Pukekohe.
Right.
I'd heard of counties, I hadn't heard of Pukekohe, to be perfectly honest with you.
Okay.
and then they named the squad, and I was on the bench. Stu Wilson, the great, sadly recently departed, great friend and man and rugby player, was playing centre with Bernie Fraser on one wing, Alan Hewson, and all the rest of it. Anyway, the centre for counties, outside centre for counties, was Bruce Robertson.
Bruce Robertson, the All Black, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and now Bruce Robertson, I'm going to say he played over 100 games for New Zealand, which shows you the length of tours, and I think about 35, 36 tests, which in the modern day you can double easily. You can double easily. You know, I regarded him way up there. Anyway, they were defending champions. We won the game 19-15, and I think Bernie or Mike Clamp, the other winger, Wayne Pride, came off with 20 to go. Stu goes to right wing, and there I am against BJ Robertson,
wow.
who I knew from the All Black Tour 74, 72, 73, and he'd been an All Black all the way through and all this. Anyway, so I hang on for 20 minutes, and we won the game 15. So it was a very sudden elevation, if you like. But it's amazing how you keep learning these things. And there was an after-match function, right, at these games, and Stu Wilson walks over to me with Bruce Robertson, and Stu says, "I want to introduce you to Bruce. He wanted to say hello to you," and made the introduction. And I thought, here is this legendary All Black. And then he spent a good 15, 20 minutes with me, and I just thought amazing. And I said to myself, whatever I achieve in life, you've got to find time for moments like these, you know. And I thought it was amazing, remarkable. I was chuffed, a little bit embarrassed, and Stu buggered off. Stu buggered off to get another beer. I don't know, whatever the case may be. So it was an amazing day in more ways than one. So my path was accelerated. And that 78 season, which ironically Wellington won the championship that year, I was predominantly on the bench. Stu played centre. I got on a couple of times, and I might have started a couple of times because of injury, but predominantly. And I went up and down the country.
Right.
You know, we Christchurch, and I went to Invercargill for the Otago game, and I went to Hamilton for Waikato, or, you know. So suddenly in this whirlwind 6 months, I'm amongst, and in those days, every All Black played provincial.
You
know, they didn't sit them out, they didn't stand them down, or you know, whatever the case may be. And you know, you played against all the great All Blacks of the day, and there am I sitting in the stand watching all in front of me. You know, then you know, people say to me, "What's this like? What is this like?" And I'm going, "Well, I don't really know. I can't quite."
Pinch me moment, right? Wake me up from this dream.
And it was really interesting because Stu Wilson, who I would regard as a legendary All Black, and he worked near me in Wellington, and he said to me, "Come on, we're going to go the extra mile here. Come to my office Monday 12:30. Change to go." And there was Stu, and he had two mates with him. What the bugger didn't tell me is his two mates were members of an athletic club, running club, not rugby players.
Right.
Those watching this podcast know Wellington, and those that don't, I'll tell you, it is one of the hilliest places in the world. So off we'd go at 12:30 on Mondays and Wednesdays for these runs, and extra mile. And Stu instilled that in me. Weight training wasn't a big thing in the late 60s. There was a bit of it going on, but it wasn't, you know, nobody was going to pay a gym membership for you to get you physically stronger and all the rest of it. And a lot of the guys were doing, you know, they had their farms, or they were doing manual work, or whatever the case may be. So they were naturally pretty. So there were lessons coming at me all over.
So Stu Wilson was a mentor, was he? Did he turn into that kind of capacity for you?
He did. And the captain of the Wellington side was a guy called Al Keon. Now, Al was a tight head prop. He would have been early 30s in my first year. It was transpired to be his last. And I'd never forget, we went to the first training session. And he said to me, he said, "Mate, well done for being here. You're here for the right reasons. We believe you're a really good centre.
Yeah.
Our paths won't much on or off the field.
Uh,
You know, I've got a couple of home and all that's blah, blah, blah." But he then said, "If you've got any issues at all, I've got your back.
right.
You can anytime you like. I've got your back." And in those days, a centre three-quarter didn't see a tight head prop on the field, you know, whether they're playing with you or against you. And Stu was very, very close. I was extraordinarily lucky. By the following season, I'd become first choice centre. I'd had Stu and Bernie outside me, which wasn't a bad way to
No.
to learn
Yeah.
the ropes. And it became very. It sounds very basic, but it was also very simplistic insofar as obviously I had these two great players outside me, but I had a job to do to deliver the best service for them.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be a straight pass, it might be trying to make a bit of a gap. But the other thing that they both taught me was that you got wingers, and they weren't arrogant men. They were not arrogant men.
Mm-hmm.
But you got wingers of that caliber. And I remember Stu saying to me, he said, "Mate, I want BB, which is bread basket. I want the ball in the bread basket." We call BB, he called BB all the time. "I want bread basket ball."
Yeah.
And for us, one on one is really good odds.
Yep.
You don't face an overlap. You don't need to try and do anything special.
Yeah.
Just work out the right time to pass the ball. If it's one on one or we have got an overlap, that's fine. But Bernie and I will back ourselves with one on one. So I was in quite a comfortable, quite a comfortable position. But it was, yeah, it was amazing at the same.
Who was sitting behind you guys at 15? Was that Alan Hewson at that stage?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Alec Hewson. He was he was at 15, and he just glided in as and when um, into the back line, and he was quick. I mean, he was quick too. I mean, Stu
Uh,
and Bernie were quick. Alec Hewson, bloody quick too.
I tell you what, unassuming player, right? Because he's the sort of guy you look at and you wouldn't think that he's got that pace for a start, and also some of the, he's pretty good off both feet actually, if I remember right. And I've seen him set up a couple of really good tries for Bernie. What do they call Bernie? The flying moustache at one stage, wasn't he? He had that. Didn't he have a moustache at one
Yeah,
stage?
the old ground in Wellington, which was called Athletic Park, we had Bernie's corner because he always scored in Bernie's corner. And Huey, you know, we always talked about giving the final pass is just as good as scoring yourself.
Yep.
Certainly Huey and I gave a lot of passes to Bernie and Stu, and don't get me wrong, they were unbelievably good at finishing it off. But Huey was a great player and a great All Black. He was a bit maligned at times, but Huey very rarely let the side down, and he was a really good bloke. Huey, really good, top man.
Tell you what, I've spent a few days at the top of the Millard stand in Wellington with a couple of mince pies, watching games in the middle of a sou'wester and driving rain and all the rest. So I've always said that for initiation of a rugby fan, that was the best place to ever go to watch a game of rugby, to become a real true initiated rugby fan. There's no better place on
Well,
the planet.
yeah, and when our big year was '81, when we won the championship and the Ranfurly Shield in the same year, and
Mm-hmm.
we were getting 25,000-30,000 people
Yep.
at Athletic Park to watch. I forget what the capacity was, but I mean it was busy. I mean
Yeah.
without busy.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got your Wellington career going well. What was the next step in the process for you, or your evolution as a rugby player?
Well, the 79, I got my spot in the Wellington team, and then 1980 came around, and there was a junior All Black tour around
Mm-hmm.
the South Island. They did a junior All Black tour, and it played 4 or 5 provinces in the South Island, and it wasn't Canterbury, it was South Canterbury, Mid Canterbury,
Yep.
probably Nelson, and things like that. And I'm pretty sure it was under 21. And they said, "Would you be available for it?" I mean, this is way ahead of regulation we have now in terms of. I said, "Yeah, absolutely. I would be." They said, "Well, would you, if it came to it, would you play for New Zealand?"
Uh-huh.
And I don't
So
have any New
you were
Zealand.
asked the question. You
I
were
was
asked
asked
that
about
question, right? Okay.
would I play. I mean,
Who asked you that? Was it a coach or who was it?
I can't remember exactly who it was, but my name was being bandied about. No more
Mm-hmm.
than that. There
Mm-hmm.
were a lot of good around, and certainly people like Billy Osborne were still around then.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Phew. The Wanganui Flyer, he was. Wow.
Yeah. So a lot of good players around. New Zealand was very strong. The provincial championship was strong. I can't remember exactly who it was. So I said, yeah, absolutely. I mean, so that's how it happened. I went on that tour. I went on the tour, and it was interesting. On that tour, the All Blacks were in Australia in that year, 1980, on a 3-match tour, I think it was. And our fly half, who was one of the best players I ever saw in my life, who's sadly died ridiculously young, was Nicky Allen, who was a fly half, left fly half. Ultimately lost his way, but he got called up for the All Blacks. And then he played for the All Blacks against Wales in the centenary test in Cardiff later that year. Unbelievable player, but sadly died on the rugby field aged 26, 27. He was my age, he was 20. And I mentioned that because somebody then said, see how quickly it can change. One injury, he's got the call up. So, and Wellington were going great. I had a good junior All Black tour. And then in the August of that year, the All Blacks were playing an unofficial test, as they were then, at Eden Park against Fiji. And I got picked for it.
Okay.
And it included people like Graham Murray, Andy Dalton, I think Billy Osborne played in it as well. But it was an unofficial test, so I wasn't an All Black. I would be now, but it wasn't then, which is fine. So it was moving upwards, quite quickly and quite readily. So and then in '81 I got picked for the end of season tour to Romania and France.
Right.
Which I'm going to say was a 10-game tour, and we took 26 guys, as it was then. You thought nothing about playing Wednesday, Saturday in those days.
Yeah.
So I got picked for that tour, which was remarkable in a number of ways. And I was 21 and going to Romania, which was very much behind the Iron Curtain in those days, and run by a awful dictator called Ceausescu. And we saw the lines of Romanians in Bucharest queuing for one egg. That was their ration was one egg. And I remember Graham Murray going with the management to an official function, and he said the spread was unbelievable, just unbelievable. We played we ran out in Bucharest at the National Stadium. There was 60,000 there, whatever it was. And Romania weren't a bad side. We won 12-6 or 14-6.
Wow.
16-7. It was 10 points in it. Very army led. AK-47s with soldiers as we ran out the tunnel and all that sort of stuff. And the guy I marked, I said to him, deliberately said, have you been to Spain and Portugal and all the rest of it? And he said, no, I am happy. And he gave that answer to about 4 or 5 questions. So it was all programmed and all the rest of it. And then, of course, you leave that and you fly a couple of hours, and then you go to Paris to the boulangeries and the coffee, the rest of it. It's a different world. And we played, I'm going to say 8 games in France, 6 provincial games and 2 tests. And every team was a French selection. So they people in left, right, and centre. And cut long story short, we were the first All Black team to win a test series in France. We won both tests. First one was a drab affair in Toulouse. Second one in Paris, which was an amazing game. But I'm pretty sure we're the first All Black side to win a test series in France.
Okay, I'm going to back you up a little bit, because I know everybody who's listening is going to want to know the answer to this question, because you're being very humble when you're talking about your rise up into the All Black team. One thing I've always wanted to know as a young Kiwi kid was, what's it like to get that phone call or that message to say that you're finally an All Black? What was that moment? Can you describe that moment to us?
Well, it was interesting. They said, and this is, people think it's so archaic. They might think it's unfair, but at the time, one didn't think that was the case.
Yeah.
It was announced that the All Black team to tour Romania and France would be announced on Radio New Zealand at 11 o'clock on Sunday.
Right. Okay.
Right. It might have been 12 o'clock, 10 o'clock. Give me some leeway. But that was the medium in which it was one found out.
Yeah.
And I was with my flatmate, and I said, what do we do here? I said, I'm not going to you know. And he said, well, let's just have a wander around. But
it's never too early for a beer, mind you. So we have to keep that in mind.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth, because he said at 11:05 we're going to be outside a public house. because if you're in, we've got to go for a beer. If you're out, we still got to go for a beer. I mean, it's great Kiwi logic, as you know too well. So it was via the radio. I can't remember, because we won the Ramfleet Shield against Waikato. For some reason, it was on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and I think the All Black side had already been named, so there's still a bit of the season to go. But yeah, no, it was on Radio New Zealand. The squad to tour is the following 26 guys. And
did they start off naming the backs or the forwards first?
I don't know, to be honest with you. They which really annoys me these days. They didn't do it alphabetically, so I didn't have to wait that way. But I think I was pissed by 1:30, 2 o'clock.
Well done, fantastic. So how was it being in the All Black environment on that tour to Europe, where compared to your Wellington environment and your other environments that you'd come up with throughout the game? Was it different being in that kind of, let's call it, elite environment?
It was certainly a greater expectation level. I remember when we left to go to the airport, I'm going to say it might have been the foreign minister of New Zealand or somebody high up in the cabinet of New Zealand said where the All Blacks rate, and he said, we export lamb to England and to Europe. Steinlager is a global brand. We've got Anchor Butter, and we've got the All Blacks. There are 4 areas that the world gets to know about. And we flew to Washington to have the New Zealand High Commissioner in Washington. Now, quite why, I have no idea. And also bear in mind, we're turning right on the aeroplane.
Yeah, right.
Right. I mean, and then we went on to Paris, and then we caught an unbelievably good airline called Tarom Airlines from Romania. I mean, it was extraordinary. But I was lucky in that squad in that you had seasoned pros in inverted commas. I mean, and you got to remember, this was 81. 80 they went to Wales. 79 they went to England, Scotland. 78 was a major tour against all nations in the UK. 77 they went to France. So the likes of Graham Murray, captain, Dave Loveridge at scrum half, Stu Wilson, Bernie Fraser, Andy Hayden, Andy Dalton, Mark Shaw, Murray McDead, they'd been round the block.
Yep. You know, who was the number 10?
Dougie Rollison.
Oh, Dougie Rollison. Yeah. Okay.
And I'm going to say, I think we went with a manager, one coach, and a physio, Malcolm Hood. So the coaching was not, as I'm not going to say, intrusive's the wrong word. You weren't surrounded by coaches.
Yeah.
So you made your own decisions. I was lucky in that 4 other Wellingtonians were in the team. I was fortuitous. I'd met a number of the guys on the Junior All Black tour. I'd played a few provincial seasons, so I knew a few of them. There was no, that I felt, animosity upon becoming an All Black.
And what was the process for you doing that? Was it like today? Was there a residency process in place? How did you qualify per se to be an All Black?
Because I've been in the country for 3 years.
Okay.
Put my hand on the New Zealand version of the Bible and promised to be a very good New Zealand citizen. And then by a process, you will be very surprised to know in New Zealand it's a bit about who you know rather than what you know. And the New Zealand passport, I think, arrived within a week, Mark.
There you go. Okay. So it was pretty stringent then, let's say it for the record. Yeah, it was a pretty stringent process.
I worked for it.
Was there a ceremonial Steinlager involved at the end of that process?
May well have been. New Zealand wine then wasn't what it is today, put it that way.
So getting back to the rugby, I'm fascinated, as I'm sure a lot of the fans listening today will be, in terms of being around that group of All Blacks, and you've named some of the iconic, I was born 5 kilometres away from where Graham Murray lived in Taranaki, right? I was near to Opunaki, where the great man was from. Dave Loveridge, just out at Inglewood, as well outside in New Plymouth. These are names that we've grown up with as All Black fans, right? What was it like being around those guys, and what were you learning as a rugby player?
The big differential for me was attitude, and however much ability you've got, if you don't have attitude, you'll never realise your potential. You just won't. You just won't. And the team is always bigger. And we've rattled off a few guys on that tour who a number would fall into legendary status or incredibly highly regarded All Blacks over many, many years. I mean, Murray was obviously a legend. He was a great captain. I'll tell you a story about him with the haka in a minute, because I had to do that for obvious reasons. And obviously Stuart Burney I knew well. So it was obviously wearing the jersey was paramount. How you represented the jersey was critical and very important. It was sticking together, being as one, and obviously playing some decent rugby. We weren't a kick and chase it All Black team by any. First test was a bit like that, but Murray was highly influential, and obviously having Dave Loveridge, who he knew a decade. I mean, they've known each other through thick and thin. And that back row of Murray, Mark Shaw, and Murray Mexted had been together for a long time. Andy Hayden, Gary Wetton, it wasn't a bad second row. I mean, but it was tough. It was tough because, especially the forwards, every Tuesday, Wednesday, this French selection 15 weren't holding back. The other big difference is, say there's 24 cameras in a game now. There's probably 6 or 8 back then. There's a lot of stuff unseen in inverted commas. So there was a lot of weary bodies, and they had to back it up. Just by pure numbers, and you certainly didn't have 8 subs on the bench or anything like that. So it was really interesting, and also. Obviously not in Romania so much, but as soon as you got to France, there was this influx of Kiwis from the UK who had been on, saved up to go to test matches. Getting tickets wasn't a problem in those days, and all the rest of it. So suddenly at training and in the lead up to the test matches, there was suddenly all these Kiwis watching their heroes. 8,000, whatever it was. So you realise, and it's how you manage that. But it was certainly a step above, without question.
Yeah. So when you look back on those days, and now we're going to, I guess, talk a little bit about, then and now, when you look back on those days and the way that you were up close and personal with the game, you're a guy running out on the field in front of all those fans. What you see today, the product that we're watching today, what are your immediate thoughts around the comparison between back then and now from a player perspective?
You now have incredibly fit athletes. When you think of, I think we were amateur days. I think we got £6 a day per diem expenses. You had people like Graham Murray, who ran a pig farm in Taranaki, had to employ a farm manager to keep the show on the road. The New Zealand Rugby Union weren't forking out to supplement him or anything like that, to my knowledge. And everybody else taking time off work and all the rest of it. And it's fine on tour, but at home with the rehab and treating knocks, and you're meant to be back at work and all that sort of stuff, it's a very different dynamic. So you have a situation now where all these pro players, incredibly talented, deserve everything they get, but they probably spend as much time with their strength and conditioning coaches as they do their actual rugby coaches, such as and 16, 17, 15, 16 stone wingers are not uncommon. My day, they were incredibly rare. John Kerwin came along 3 or 4 years later, who was a different beast in the nicest possible on the wing. So comparing is impossible. Our guys could have been fitter, of course. On tour was the fittest you ever were, because you could train at 10 in the morning. So it was a very different dynamic. Do I think the guys, dare I say it, and I hate saying it, back in the day were any less skillful? No, I don't. I honestly think, in terms of a skill set, I think the guys were on a par, if not beyond, to be honest with you. And we had a freedom to play what was in front of us. Certainly the Wellington team. You know, if you saw a 3-on-2, 10 yards from your own line, you bloody well ran it.
Yep.
You kick for touch, you ran it, because that's what was in front of you, and you got backed with what's in front of you. Test matches are obviously incredibly quick; they're much more physical.
Yep.
But comparing is tricky. But I do admire the modern day player. I think it's obviously become more physical because they spend all this time doing the strength and conditioning across the board.
Yeah.
So it's tough for them. It's tough for them, and it's a different type of pressure because this is their livelihood. And you know, we all know that if I'm the incumbent blindside flanker, somebody else is looking for my successor. That's just the nature of pro. And I'm an ACL away from oblivion.
Yep.
You know, my insurance contract might last 6 months or a year, but beyond that, what is my second career? Because unlike the soccer players, I'm a couple of noughts shy of what I need. You know, so it's really it's a totally different environment for them, and the spotlight is far greater. But it's interesting. People talk about spotlight and the social media effect of it and all that sort of stuff. And then if I'm walking down the street, somebody can take a photo. It's online within a minute. I've been in restaurants with Great All Blacks in New Zealand, admittedly, where the autograph hunters didn't stop. But that's the way it was in those days. And Stu and Bernie and Murray and others were really, really good at it and very accommodating with it. You know, they were well known back in the day. I assure you, they were known, but just in a different way.
Let's talk about a couple of the more sensitive topics between the before and after. And the first one is the officiating of the game. And, you know, you're aware as I am, all the chatter online these days about what's going on in that area. How do we compare, or should we even compare, between how the games were officiated back in the day when you were around compared to today? And where's it all going in your eyes?
Well, it's chalk and cheese. You can't compare it because the touchdown put the flag out for a start. Let alone have a TMO and 26 cameras to do slow-mos from 14 different angles. I'm exaggerating slightly, but you know, now it is microscopic in terms of what goes on in the field. So, excuse me, it's totally different. Yeah, the refs have a tough job, but they have unbelievable support now from the 2 assistant referees running the line and the TMO upstairs. Do I think it's good for the game? I appreciate that the welfare side of it from a safety perspective is enormous. Do I think the officiating is better or worse? I wouldn't really know. I would say the guys now are pretty exceptional under extreme pressure. I do have a slight problem. If I'm just going to extend your question a bit, if I may, in terms of the laws of the game, Mark, in that not just for head injuries, laws are being changed on a regular basis. And is there something fundamentally wrong with the game that continuously has to change their laws? You know, whether it be a 50-20, whether it be this, whether it be that, not just, you know, head related. So I think it is. I would go the NFL route. As soon as the referee says field to play, everybody can hear it. You know, if I'm paying 150 quid to watch a game at Twickenham, or Cardiff, or Eden Park, or wherever it is, I'm the fan. Right? Give me everything. Give me everything. I don't want to be, you know, not knowing what that decision is for, or the reason that this is happening, or what have you. And then of course you get what I call Piccadilly Circus, which is a busy part of London. After about, well, could be 45 minutes, it could be 15 minutes, where there's 7 blokes coming on, or 6 blokes. But you know, I mean, we can blame Razzie Erasmus, but I mean, he's innovative, and he does it within the law and all that sort of stuff. But it is quite extraordinary. And we mentioned some of the All Black guys, and certainly some of the England guys as well. If you said to them, you said to Mark Shaw, Murray Mexted, even Graham Murray for that matter, and a lot of guys just give it everything for 50 because you'll be off.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to be a fly on the wall to see how many times they told them where to go. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it just was dynamic. It just, it was this whole thing about weighing them down to the last 20 minutes. We're going to finish them off.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Have a scenario where you pretty much have two different forward packs.
Yeah.
And an old friend of mine was bemoaning. He was a hooker. He'd have 30 caps now because the hooker comes off every time. They're very rarely that a hooker lasts 80 minutes. And he sat on the bench for 25, 30 and didn't get it.
It's an interesting point. Absolutely. You've got essentially nearly two teams that are coming on to do the job. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're changing over half.
Yeah.
If
exactly
my
right.
mass is eight is more than half of 15.
I'm on that page too. Okay, let's close the chapter on the All Black side of your life story, and let's now talk about how things transitioned over to becoming an England representative. How did that journey go from New Zealand back to England?
In '82, after that All Black tour, I was going to be picked for the first test against Australia. I tore the backside out of my hamstring. I properly tore it, so I was out for 2 or 3 months, if not longer. So that was a very truncated season. And I went to Harlequins in London to get a bit of foot, to have I wanted to get back on the road and get back on the horse and all that sort of stuff. And having left London at 18, I'd never experienced London life before.
Uh-huh.
And if you want to experience London life as well as play a bit of rugby football, Harlequins is not a bad place to go. Because it's that sort of ilk and that sort of guy and all the rest of it. And I really enjoyed it and loved it. Went back to New Zealand for '83. Played against the Lions for Wellington. Didn't get in the Lions All Black side against the Lions. Then did my hamstring again. Again, it was so annoying because I had a day job, I had to do rehab. Do I have an op? And 40 odd years ago, medical science was not what it is now. And it wasn't up to the Wellington Rugby Union to put me under the knife, or the New Zealand Rugby Union to decide that I had an op or whatever the case may be. So I got a bit disenchanted. So I came back again in '83 to Harlequins, and somebody said to me, you can double up, don't you? And I said, what are you talking about? And I was fully aware my international career could be over. I was fully aware of that. Much as I was still very much in the Wellington team and all that sort of stuff. And there wasn't a campaign as such, but it got into my head. And one of the journalists picked it up and mentioned it because it was this 3-year gap. And my last test was '81. So by November '84, technically, England could pick me.
You're eligible, yeah, absolutely.
And Brian Smith had done it. I don't know if he did it before me or after me, who was an Aussie fly half and played for Ireland. And there's a couple of others. It didn't sit hugely with me, and I was so appreciative of what New Zealand had done for me, just on and off the field. I played 6 times the Wellington provincial team, which was the most joyous rugby I ever played in my life, and teammates to be with and all the rest of it. Anyway, cut long story short, I decided to hang up my boots in New Zealand and came back to London, got a job, played for Harlequins, and again with no real ambition. And there was a couple other issues as well, which on the personal side, which I should have been back here for a bit longer. Blah blah blah. Anyway, I stayed. And then at the start of the '84-'85 season here in the UK. They said at the end of the season you're available. England select. We've talked. Dudley Wood was the secretary of the RFU. He said, if the England selectors want you, they can pick you.
Right.
So it became a bit of a thing. The downside. There was a downside to this.
I was going to ask you.
In the end of the season, England are touring. Would you believe New Zealand?
New Zealand. Okay.
In '85. So again, cutting a long story short, I got picked for the England team to tour New Zealand in 1980, which I could have in lots of ways I could have done without it, because I got far too much publicity. It wasn't fair on the rest of the England, well, certainly the centres and the rest of the England team. Me going back and the noise that it created. It wasn't massive, but it was regular and all the time. Thankfully, in some ways, there wasn't a game against Wellington on the schedule.
Right.
But whatever, there wasn't. So I went back on the tour, and it was quite interesting. The first test was in Christchurch.
Yeah.
Mexted rang me on the Friday night. They say, "Well done, mate. Great achievement. Lads are looking forward to seeing you. Just to let you know, after the aftermatch function, we're going to this place in Christchurch High Street, or whatever the thing was. Great, Max. Oh yeah, just finally, I just let you know, if you come back on the switch, I'm going to take your fucking head off." So I thought, nothing's changed. That's fine.
Business as usual in New Zealand, mate.
And off we went.
Fantastic. What a great story that is. Who was, okay, give me the English backline that you toured with. Who was outside you on that tour?
The captain was a guy called Paul Dodge.
Oh, yep. Paul Dodge, yep.
Side centre. I played outside centre. Mickey Howson was on one wing. Nigel Melville was scrum half. Hugh Davis was fly half, I think.
Yeah.
Fullback. Good question. Chris Martin played the first test, I think.
Okay.
We lost the first test. I was in Chicago recently for the All Black game against Ireland, and David Kirk, the scrum half, he played. We were talking about that. He's now chairman of New Zealand Rugby. Lovely man. And they won the game 18-15 with 6 kicks a goal. Didn't score. We scored something like that. You know? So they were so embarrassed by it. They were so embarrassed that the pod was 4-2 authorised. And their winning penalty came when the referee said that Paul Dodge and I were within 10 metres of the line out.
Right.
And Dodgy said something to the referee that thankfully did not quite get us another 10-yard penalty. Anyway, Kieran Crowley, another one of yours.
Another one of ours. Yeah.
Kicked a goal from 40 metres for them to win the game 18-15. I found it an awkward tour.
I was going to say, was there a lot of love from the fans towards you putting on an English jersey or what?
It was, from memory, it was quite relaxed, to be honest. I mean, listen, we played Auckland, and Auckland's going to be different, in terms of copying it. But we played. It was really interesting. It's really embarrassing. I can't remember the guy's name, but this to me typifies New Zealand rugby.
Yeah.
And I should have dug it out, but I haven't. There was a lock forward that played for Southland, right?
Yeah.
After match meal. And this is what I love about regular guys and guys that come up through the community game and clubs and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
There was this forward that came up, and he came up with the match program. And he said to me, "Jamie, can you do me a favour?" And I played against him for Wellington a couple of times. He said, "Can you do me a favour and get all the England guys to sign it?"
Yeah.
So I said, "Really?" And he said, "I'm never going to play for the All Blacks. This is my test match. This is the only." And I berated myself for not, copying onto it quicker. And so touching, so great that this guy, he did play for Southland 30, 40 times, but it just hadn't coincided. Southland weren't in Invercargill, weren't getting many touring teams of note playing against them, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And the way he said, "This is my test match."
Yeah.
So I went round and made sure every one of the guys signed it properly, blah, 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 and gave it back to them. And those little things about touring, and when you have those midweek games, those opportunities, those sorts of players that have now sadly gone, such as the modern schedule, I just thought was fantastic.
It was. And I'll tell you what, I bet you that guy's got that program framed up on his living room wall, and it hasn't moved since, because that's what it was all about for him. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. So what?
He's quite happy calling it a test match, and I good on him. It is a test match for him.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's the game of his life. It's the rugby game of his life that he'll remember forever. Yeah. So, how many caps for England did you get in the end?
12.
12 caps.
12 caps for England, which included the first World Cup.
Yep.
7. Again, which was awkward for different reasons, in that the UK unions didn't want a World Cup, hadn't prepared for it properly, and all the rest of it. And the pool draws, there were 3 groups in New Zealand and 1 in Australia, and England was in Australia.
Right.
And we played our games at a place nobody will have remember it or heard of it, called Concord Oval.
Concord Oval in Sydney.
Yeah. And you wouldn't have thought there was a Rugby World Cup going on. Seriously.
Right.
And all that sort of stuff. We played Australia first up. There was a really disputed try of David Campese's, which was quite rightly very disputed because it wasn't a bloody try. But anyway, it was really funny talking to the Aussie guys, because their coach was Alan Jones,
the radio guy,
radio presenter, blah blah blah. His show was in the mornings, and he was carried on working during the World Cup. I'm going to say the 8 till 11 slot or a 9 till 12 slot. So all the Wallabies had to twiddle their thumbs, have a coffee in the morning, and they trained in the afternoon, you see.
Yep.
So on that day, the RFU, to sort of appease us in some ways, we flew to Hamilton Island. Now, but those people that don't know, Hamilton Island is a luxurious resort off the coast of Queensland, on the Barrier Reef, doo-dah. And we went up there, we were playing Japan or USA in our group the following Saturday, Sunday, I don't know what.
Yeah.
And we were like kings for 3 days, 4 days. We took helicopters out to the Barrier Reef. I mean, it was just utterly ludicrous. And the Aussie boys were fuming, absolutely fuming around for Alan Jones' radio show before they could go train. And the Concord Open, I don't know if hosted another test match after that. I mean, it was the scene of the great semi-final of that 87 World Cup between Australia and France, where Serge Blanco scored in the left-hand corner to get them to the final. Blacks a week later at East Park. So 12 caps for them. Played the 2 tests in New Zealand, played a couple of 5 Nations series as it was then, and then the World Cup in 87.
Fantastic. World Cup. Playing in the World Cup must have been a buzz, though, yeah? Despite the things you've just mentioned, it must have been something fantastic.
Well, the annoying thing from our point of view was that you could see this coming. You could see the commercialism coming. You couldn't carry on. I mean, there were guys in the England team, just like they were in the All Blacks, who hadn't seen May in the UK.
Yep.
That sounds on the schedules, but in those days, the season was done by the 30th of April. You went on tour mid-May for a month, or whatever the case may be, who didn't see mid-May and June, just like the All Black tours of October and November in those days. They didn't see New Zealand in October and November. You couldn't keep asking these guys to keep away for 4, 5, 6 weeks, much as it for no money at all, for nothing at all, when we're selling out the stadiums, TV rights are going up, etc., etc., etc. So, and obviously it was a while later that I was done in 87, and then I did sit on the bench for England in 89 against Romania, ironically enough, complete the cycle, as it was.
I was going to say the circle,
first test. Well, it was quite interesting because it was a Lions tour year, 89. The Lions went to Australia. I was pretty much done, but Clive Rowlands, the Welsh manager, saw me at a game and said, would you be available for the Lions tour? Because Simon Halliday's unavailable, Will Carling's pulled out injured, we've got Scott Hastings, somebody else. It's going to be between you and Jeremy Guscott, who was on stage. He was starting Halliday against England against Romania the following week. I was on the bench, and Haller said, I'll come off with 20 to go so you can have a run out. Perfect, Haller's lovely, all the rest of it. You allowed 3 subs in those days. At half time on that blissful afternoon in Bucharest, not only had we used 3 subs, but Guscott had scored 3 tries. So I knew exactly where I was spending my summer in 89. And quite rightly, I hasten to add, it was the right decision. But who knows what might have been.
There you go. So that was the end of it, was it? That was the end of the English career?
Yeah. And it was quite interesting because ironic that, and Romania hadn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
mm-hmm.
because I'd been there before and stayed in touch with one guy called Alexander Pop, Romanian guy, I knew to take tea bags, chocolate biscuits, right? Okay. And we were leaving on the Sunday morning, and the hotel cleaner came, and I put stuff we hadn't had into a bag to give to her. And she pointed at the bag, which had a logo on it, and said, as soon as at the hotel, she'd be accosted. So there's no way. So anyway, we found something, and she shoved it up her front to she wasn't seen.
Right.
But that was Ceausescu's Romania, and the complete end of the story is that Christmas '89, Ceausescu and his wife got tried for crimes against the government, against the country, on Christmas Day morning, and it was a quick case. They got executed on Christmas Day afternoon.
Wow. And wow.
Same, internationally, it got a lot of condemnation that they got tried and executed on the same day.
Yeah.
There was dancing in the street in Romania.
In Romania, yeah, of course. Now, one of the parts of a rugby player's career, and an important part of the career, is the transition from being a player into retirement. How did that go for you?
Well, I always had a day job, so I didn't have to worry. Unlike the guys now, in terms of how do I miss playing rugby, I always had a job. Now, how do I cope with without being a pro and find a job that suits me and a career that's going to suit me?
Yep.
And touch wood, you're in your early 30s rather than, God forbid, some guys at 24, 25, 26. Obviously, the body has had a battering and they can't carry on. So I always had a day job, and I played a couple of seasons for Quins after I finished internationally. I got tired of picking up a gear bag 3 times a week.
Yep.
And training at 7 at night for 6-7 months. And I don't give a damn how good you are. Once that goes,
yep,
you're going to start coming second. I'm embarrassed on the field. So I was 30. We just had our first son, and I was fine with it. I didn't hanker for it. A glorious September afternoon in England, I thought, wow, it'd be great to get out there and all the rest of it. But in the main, I was quite comfortable with it because I'd packed from 18 to 30. I'd packed in 16 seasons, 15 seasons. Right, so I doubled up a few times.
Yeah.
So I was very relaxed about it. I was comfortable about it. I'd had a hell of a run, so I was really comfortable with it.
What were your 2 most memorable games of rugby? One for England, one for the All Blacks. Which ones would you pick out?
I would pick out the second test for the All Blacks against France. We won the first test, and 3 of us got dropped. Peter Burke was the coach, and he said, I want to make some changes, and I was one of them. And Murray was furious because in those days you didn't change a winning team.
Right.
Anyway, cut long story short, I almost cried actually because Philippe Dantron, who was the hooker for France, Bernie Fraser in the 3rd minute, and Bernie was KO'd, came off. I came on. Stu went to back to the wing, and as we were waiting for the next facet to play, Stu Wilson, who I've known for a long time, I had a lot of footy with him by this stage, and he was a very, very close mate. He said, "We're back where we belong. We got this." i.e. positionally in the team and all the rest of it, which I thought was such a good thing to say.
Yeah.
I was, and disappointed I was, and blah 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 blah, and all that sort of stuff. So that would certainly be one. And ironically, and you might think I'm copping out here, but the England game against New Zealand in Christchurch, my first England test against New Zealand in Christchurch, because it was surreal. I played at Lancaster Park, as was sadly no longer there, but Lancaster Park, which I would argue was iconic ground, if that's not being.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Iconic ground. there we were at Lancaster Park. We'd had a Shield challenge there in days gone by, had royal battles with Canterbury. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the way the Cantabrians were.
Yep.
And I mean that in a complimentary way.
Yeah, they're great people.
Yeah. And so they'd be the two that I'd pick out, Mark.
Okay, terrific. Because Lancaster Park, we've got to put it in context, because you're absolutely right in terms of its iconic status within the game of rugby and cricket. Because if we remember Sir Richard Hadley and what he did, his heroics at Lancaster Park will be things that live on for generations and generations. So I'm pleased you mentioned that. Okay, so now we've got to talk about a couple of things that I'd love to hear from a guy of your stature, because as you know, I run a rugby podcast show and I get thousands of comments from All Black fans and other rugby fans talking about the current All Blacks, their performances this year. And a couple of positions that always come up in those conversations, of course, is the midfield. And it seems to be that in 2025, the midfield combinations that have been tried in the All Blacks haven't delivered up to what expectations are of, let's face it, very, very highly demanding fans of All Blacks across the world. What's your take on the current way the All Black midfield's performing from the start of the 25 season right through to the last game against Wales?
You have to say it's work in progress. There's a number of combinations that have been tried. I think you could probably put 10 in that mix. I presume you're talking 12, 13.
Absolutely.
I think the thing that's hindered it a lot too is they've taken a couple of stuffings, notably second South Africa game when they lost by 40. And South Africa did score a number of tries out wide and all that sort of thing. Obviously, the coaching staff have decided to go down a different route. You know, Ricky Ioane was jettisoned on the recent autumn tour. I know he played against Wales, but certainly against England he wasn't. And you would argue a year ago he was first choice. So they have tried a number of combinations, and I get what Scott Robertson's doing to a degree. He needs to know how deep, the squad goes, and he's been found out. Unlike Rassie Erasmus, Rassie Erasmus had 46 Springboks this year.
Yep,
something like that. I don't know how many All Blacks have played this year. 46 different, players. I don't know what the All Black number is, but Rassie's got away with it because they won. Whether you like it, how they play, or the way you go about it, they've won, footy matches. I think Scott Robertson, certainly next year, has got to decide who his 10, 12, 13 are, because you're 18 months and I'm going to say 15 test matches away from the Rugby World Cup. With the guys that he's played, and I don't want to comment on them individually because I don't see enough of them provincially or for Super Rugby or what have you. But there's certainly if you're a player, there's a real good case for saying, I'm going to make this my own. I'm really going to, there's opportunities there quite comfortably. I think the 10 position is probably as equally challenging as 12, 13. No bigger fan of Beauden Barrett than I am, and what he's done, the way he's played the game it's got to be over a decade now. I think he's 33, 34 now, Beauden Barrett. All Black young. So it's been 12, 13 years that guy's graced the paddock for the All Blacks, and by God, has he been good.
Three massive concussions in there too. So we need to put that into context, because I don't care who you are as a rugby player, when you've been sidelined through 3 serious concussions and getting onto his age, it's got to be something that factored in there as well.
Yeah, but I yes, you're absolutely right. And I am no doctor, scientist, specialist when it comes to the head, but you've got to presume that he's having all the scans in the world and all that sort of stuff. I mean, he's had a huge career, and I don't think anybody would begrudge him if he said, my time is now to seek pastures new. But as we sit here, he's available for selection, to be honest with you. And then you've got that unbelievable player who's gone to Japan to enhance his game, and you've got Damien McKenzie, who everybody in Waikato is probably up in arms about not starting.
Yeah, we could talk about that one for all day. Okay, let's flick the switch and go to England now. How's this England squad looking? Of course, they've had a good year in 2025. They've had 11 out of 12 wins in the last series, and they're looking like they've got their bench sorted out now that can take on the best in the game. So are you very buoyant about where England is at the moment going into the penultimate year before the Rugby World Cup?
I would say positively optimistic as opposed to buoyant. There's no doubt they've done a number of things. They've shown depth. They've shown greater resilience when up against it. I'm going to say they were 12-0 down against the All Blacks in November. And then they won the game 33-19. So it was 33-7 for the last 60 minutes, which is... They've got guys coming to the peak of their time. They've unearthed some really good new talent. Example of that, Guy Pepper.
Yes.
What is a competitive back row for obvious reasons. Guy Pepper, I'm going to say, started at least 3 out of 4, if not all 4, and was a beacon, which I think is really encouraging for them. I think the midfield, Max Ajomo suddenly came to life, and you've got Lawrence, and you've got Slade didn't get a game until the last one. Oh, George Ford. I mean, George Ford. For everybody talking about one of the Smiths, George Ford is Mr. Reliable, Mr. Dependable. World Cup semi-final with 5 to go. I think Ford gets it. To be honest with you, England would always produce a decent Ford.
Yep.
What they've got to do is make sure is semi-final they had against the All Blacks in 2019 in Japan, they can back it up.
Yep.
You play the next week as if you've not quite never played before, but in such a big differential.
Yep.
They've got to go back. And I think the way the Six Nations is working out this year, their last game is France away, which will be the ultimate test. The French are the French, yes, I get that, and they couldn't beat the Springboks with 14 men. But the sight of a red rose is enough for them to get excited.
Yep.
On shirt. So I think the Six Nations will be really interesting for them. And obviously you've got this new Nations Cup starting next year, which is a very different scheduling. They're playing the Box in Joburg, which will be really tough. But I think Steve Borthwick has done an incredible job, and I would now say they've got guys. You've got 30 plus guys that you're comfortable wearing the shirt, which is a pretty good to be. I don't think the All Blacks have got that. I think Australia have got that. They've got the players. It's getting 36 quality players that you're having.
Yep. Who's your we're going to get on to the final part of the show in a minute, but I just want to say or ask you, who's your bolter for the Rugby World Cup at this stage? I know we're nearly 2 years out still, but is there a team that kind of hasn't shown us everything altogether at the moment? It may be due to injuries, it may be selections playing around with a bit. Is there a team that's a bit of a dark horse for you, or are we going to see the standard ball bearers again?
I showing my age, I mean, having played in the O1 in 87, and here we are 10, 12 World Cups later, it is beyond extraordinary that France have never won a Rugby World Cup. And that it remain the only Northern Hemisphere side to win a Rugby World Cup in 2003. Yes, got to the final a couple other times, but winning the bloody thing. And my dark horse is France. Yep. My dark horse for World Cups has been France. Yep. But we know what the Boks are going to do. We know what the Boks are going to bring. The All Blacks will improve. The Aussies will certainly improve. No doubt about that. So I think Ireland are a bit over the hill, possibly, to mount a challenge to win the thing. But I really hope that France give it a really good go there when it really, really counts, alongside the other big boys, so to speak. But my dark horse is France. Outside that, I would say that South Africa are the favourites, and I think England will be very close behind that.
Okay, good. Okay, last part of the show. Let's talk about the state of the game, because I've listened to your wonderful story, and I want to thank you way before we get to the end of the show for sharing what you have, because it's been a fantastic insight to a unique player and passionate fan of the game yourself, who's gone through the journey you have, and you're able to sit here today and talk about it with such passion and also clarity as though it was yesterday. And that's something else about the great game of rugby. I think if we're a real fan, we remember all those little details. So I'm fascinated to know, with all the experience you've had in the past and you follow the game right up to this very day, where are we at with the game of rugby in 2025, the state of the game versus where it's come from? And as you said, we can't compare it. We're in a new era. But is this era heading in the right direction for someone like yourself, who's been a fantastic exponent of the game on the field of rugby? You've had to deal with all the player welfare issues yourself in the era that you did. Then you've become a fan of the game. You watch what's happening to the game commercially, professionally, from the refereeing point of view. Technology's come into the game. Where are we at and what needs to be improved?
Communication is always a key facet that has to be improved, and I mean that on and off the field. I mentioned before about referees at test matches being able to through their microphone talk to the crowd about every decision they make. Might not be every one they make, but a lot of them that should be voiced to the crowd. The 82,000 people, 55,000 people, whatever it is, have to be informed. They're the true fans that are forking out their money to go and watch it live. When you can sit on your armchair and still watch it, you can still be a fan. That's great, and I understand financial dynamics have a say in that as well. Totally understand that and get that. But certainly we are now got two games. We've got the community game and the pro game and the amateur game. And the pros, it's a different game. I've got guys at my local rugby club the same size as Ollie Chesham. He's just not as good as Ollie Chesham, and he has a few beers more than Ollie Chesham and all the rest of it, but loves the game just as much and loves England and all the rest of it. But the top end of the game is a totally different dynamic. And what really annoys me is people come away from Twickenham or Eden Park or wherever the case may be, say that game's too brutal for our kids. That game is way too brutal. It's not a like-for-like comparison. I can get your 10-year-old down at my local rugby club and give him a really safe environment and also teach him values about being with a team, having my mates back, not telling the referee to bugger off. All those values that rugby people really aspire to and want to embrace. I'm not saying the top end does it, but it's a different mindset when you're a pro. Totally different mindset. But the game is 99.9% of it. The community game is 99.9% of it. The top 1% that we all look up to, unbelievable athletes, great rugby players, love it, love it, love it. But the community game has to have a way of touching those icons. That 10-year-old who follows George Ford or Bodie Barrett or whoever the case may be, and being part of it and being able to embrace it and all the rest of it. And it's the language is the thing that worries me is the language, and collision is now a common word in rugby at the top level. Brutal is a word in at the top level. I don't want a 10-year-old, 12-year-old to think about brutality and collisions and car crashes and all the rest of it. And at the top level, you're not necessarily coached all the time to go into space. We were coached to go into space to create something that we could get beyond the gain line. So it's really hard. It's really difficult. And since the game's gone pro, there have been major challenges with the physicality of the game and what lasting effects that has had to certain players. I mean, which is horrible and awful and all the rest of it. So it is challenging for World Rugby to administer that and govern that, and the players have got a responsibility too. But we are a moving game. People not come off their feet literally, but they move. Their feet move, and it's nanoseconds, and the video play should be in real time, not in the slow-mo side of it. So it's a hard balance to find. I like to think I worry about participation. As long as we've got this language about collisions and car crashes and brutality, it's not a like for like, and we must. If you're running this game, you've got to have a crystal ball committee. I hate the word committee. A crystal ball think tank where are we going to be in 5 years? Are we going to be a participating sport or a spectator-based sport? And I sincerely hope the former will always be the case. And we've got more kids when they leave university and all the rest of it going into that community side. And this is it's probably changed since my day. But I walked into that first dressing room in New Zealand and walked up to the bar afterwards, when people say, "Hi, we haven't met. My name's so-and-so."
Yep.
Now, that to me is just a joy, and young people should experience that. Men and women, girls and boys, how you do that, and those social skills, and that hand-eye coordination. It's proven if you do hand-eye coordination skills with kids, if they 2 years, 3 years down the line decide to play the piano, those hand-eye coordinations will help.
Yep.
So there's a lot of things the community, and I think the community side has been, and the real fans who go and watch old Rubber Duckies third team on a Saturday afternoon in the pouring rain, they are the bigger investors, which cannot be measured in dollars or pounds or yen or whatever language or currency one wants to talk about. They are the true investors that come rain or shine. They're with their young lads or mini and junior rugby. They're playing a bit, they're coaching a bit, they're picking up the balls, they're picking up the post protectors. With the pro game being so prominent now, we're just losing sight of that community aspect of it, where I believe the real fans are. And I think certainly there's a case that we be very careful if we price out those fans.
Beautiful place to leave the show. Jamie, I want to thank you for sharing. It's been a privilege and an honour to listen to you talk about your incredible rugby journey throughout your life, and you're still going. You're going to be with us, and you're going to be sharing, I'm sure, a lot more of your passion in the weeks and months ahead. So I thank you very much for it, and I wish you a beautiful evening in the UK.
Thanks, Mark. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Now, I don't know about you all, but I could have kept listening to Jamie for another couple of hours telling his rugby stories. And he reminded me after the show that he didn't tell his story about the haka. And he did tell me off air, but I tell you what, we're going to have to get him back just to hear that story because it's absolutely brilliant. So there you go, Jamie Salmon, the only player in history of the game of rugby to play test matches for the New Zealand All Blacks and for England as well. What a fantastic journey he's had. Some great points about the game of rugby. Let me know in the comments of this particular video if you enjoyed it, if you got something out of it. Did some of the names that Jamie mentioned throughout this video spring a memory for you? It certainly did for me. All those great Wellington players from New Zealand, the Harlequins he played for, the English team and his English mates. There was a lot of things that brought back some fantastic memories throughout that particular show for me. Now, listen, I want to thank you all for watching the United Rugby Fans podcast show. We've just started here on our new YouTube channel. We've got some amazing guests coming on the show in the not too distant future, so I'd love you to come back. The best way to do that, of course, is to hit the subscribe button. If you've enjoyed today's video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your rugby mates across the world, and tell them to tune in and listen to Jamie's episode because it was really, really fantastic. Okay, so that's it for this particular show. I'll be back again soon with some more content. Until then, you keep safe, keep watching your rugby across the world, and it's time for me to say adios from beautiful Cancun in Mexico. Bye for now, everyone.